You're working with this Jamie?
That's Jamie. She is our sustainability fellow, helping with the open space plan and vulnerability assessment.
Well,
Does everybody know about that, a new app, Too Good to Go?
Yes.
Are there any restaurants in Maine?
There were two yesterday. And anyway, I was thinking that's something that we could do is go around and talk to restaurants, especially ones that have buffets. And things like that. What the concept is so much food waste. And that restaurants have to throw it out. If you have a buffet or, something like that. Instead, they package it all up into doggy bags. It's on an app that they have stuff available from the restaurant or bagel store or, whatever it is, and that you can purchase a mystery bag online and you go and you get a shopping bag full of, it's gonna be something that was on the menu.
That day.
That day.
Groceries too.
They do groceries, yeah. And so you can purchase these things and they tell you pick it up between this side and that. And it's $5 or something for a huge grocery bag full of usually baked goods or restaurant stuff. And restaurants, food stores like it because they're not throwing stuff out. And also because it gives them a fair amount of advertising. You try this thing, oh, I never thought about that,
Yeah.
I like it. And anyway, there's two around here now, but there'll be more.
And what is this called?
It's called Too Good to Go. And it's an app and it's cooked stuff.
No, yeah,
Well, we haven't officially started the meeting, but I would entertain a motion that we include that in the minutes.
Yeah.
Because it can go on record and therefore it gets publicized. So welcome and greetings to you all for our February Sustainability Committee meeting. We have a distinguished guest, Dave. I think we're all familiar with Dave at this point. And you're familiar with us, so I think we can go through this and forget the introductions. We will vote on the minutes of last month that were included. Thank you for putting them together, Jamie. Do I have a motion to accept them? Deb, in a second. Okay, I saw Ron's or Dave's hands first. It will, I hope Ron.
no, it was just bigger, that's.
Well, to clear off your head, I think.
You don't want to be involved with this. These are not nice.
Do we have any discussion on the
These are not nice
minutes?
people.
Not nice.
All right, all in favor of accepting? We have nobody online, so we can just do a raise of hands. Very good, thank you much. Jamie put together the agenda. We chatted about this last week. And I open it up for anybody that wants to bring forth a subject that's not included in the agenda.
But just, when is the sustainability day gonna be?
October 6th, and that was going to be something that I wanted to mention that I've just already started reaching out to vendors or food trucks and things like that. But we do need to get the committee back together. So if there's anyone from this group that would like to serve on the planning committee for Sustainable Scarborough Day, let me know. Thank you, Patrice.
I wanna get induction cooktops and stuff like that,
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
and have like Abrams come or demonstrate, maybe a cooking show.
Yeah.
Yes. A chef. Ooh, that'd be good. All right, seeing none other, we'll move into public comment. We have nobody from the public online. Anybody in the room wish to make a public comment? Seeing none, we close public comment. The first order of business is going over some of the old business now, folks. We need to have an official vote on moving the resolution to carbon cash back to the town council. Let me just say that there is a council now that is not in favor of bringing local or federal and state resolutions forward to the town council at this time. So I just want to be on record to say that. And I will open it up for the vote at this point on moving this resolution forward. I vote no.
Do we need a motion first?
Oh. I guess.
And once we have. a motion-
Well, you all know, yes, but no, we've already had our discussion and I'm going to not have further discussion on this. This is just a vote at this point. We've had discussions many times and this is just to wrap things up. So there will be no discussion, period. This is just the official vote. So I make a motion that we do not move this forward to the town council. I need a second.
Second.
Ask a question? Is governance top down or bottom up? For the council?
From me, this is me up. The town council, I think it's from top down, right?
But you were gonna have a vote, weren't you?
What's that?
You're gonna have a vote on how we feel collectively. right?
Yes, that's what this is.
Okay. So why don't we just vote?
So we have a motion, we have a second. All in favor to move this forward?
Wait.
Your motion was to
Oh, okay, all in favor of not moving this forward? Raise your hand. All in favor of moving this forward? All right, this matter is closed. Moving on to the update on the sustainability reserve account.
Yeah, so Rick, followed up with John Anderson on the memo that was, that this group sent back in December about establishing the, sustainability reserve account. John responded back and asked if it was going to be included in, the budget for engineering and technical services department. And this is kind of a separate, effort. It's not really operational budget. It's really reserve funding for future project work and things like that. I believe that Tom and John have spoken and the plan is for the finance committee to take it up at an upcoming meeting. I have not heard when that meeting is. And I do want to share, we had talked about dedicating a portion of the electrical permit fees that were are collected throughout the year to that account. And Autumn did share that budget is running below budget this year. So there may not be any additional revenues in that account to put into the sustainability reserve account, but at least kind of setting it up and having it there would be a really good first step. And then also dedicating any fees collected from the in lieu fees collected from the EV charging ordinance would go into that as well. So it does seem like it's nice that there was acknowledgement that the memo was received. And I do believe that the committee will be discussing it coming up soon. I'll follow up to find out if any member of this group should plan to be in attendance to speak to that. Because that was not entirely clear.
Yeah, he didn't. Okay, that's great, though. At least he recognizes that it's a budget item that needs to be talked about.
Right. And I do just want to say Autumn's now online with us, so if we do have any
Morning, Autumn.
need anything from Autumn. Morning, Autumn.
Morning.
All right, next we move to the update on the CPACE ordinance.
Yeah, so it looks like CPACE will go to the ordinance committee in March. We are going to ask members of the ordinance committee. Do you have something else? Is that not true? Okay, sorry.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. You said we're gonna ask members of the ordinance committee.
Oh.
I-
Oh. Fair,
So
thank
I can
you.
be ready.
You probably don't need to do this, we'll either include slides from the presentation or provide the link to the meeting in October where we had
video,
Efficiency
yeah.
Maine provide the presentation, and if they can, take 15 minutes or so before they meet to watch that. I'm not sure if that's if the members will do that or not, but it will be helpful to have that background and I think help things go a little bit more smoothly during the meeting. So that will be, provided to them. And I think that meeting is like the March 14th.
Yes,
So I can,
whatever that was.
I know, it's a.
Because leap day threw us off.
Leap day did
Yeah,
throw
so
us
March
off,
13th.
March 13th.
At 6 p.m.
March 13th?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. And now we move to the update on, or the review of the council goals. And maybe April, you want to kind of give us a background? Sorry,
Yeah, I was gonna say, Jamie, do you have the council goals?
I haven't read, okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah, let me just share my screen, just so that I can. I don't think there's anyone online, but anyone going back and watching this on YouTube, this would be helpful for them to have. There we go. Yeah, sharing some. Zoom. So. Probably concert, geez, I'm sorry, my mouse is very touchy this morning. So conservation and sustainability and traffic and transportation are probably the ones most closely related to the work of this group. I don't know are you all interested in going through all of them, or do you want to just focus on the ones most related to Sustainability Committee? Okay. So April, do you want to walk through this, or?
It's up to you guys, whatever you want. If you want to just take a second to read them and then I can give you some context if you would like to have a little more information on the conversation that council had around these goals. I'm happy to provide that.
I think that
Or if you have any questions.
Where are we, with the 30 by 30? Very low, right? Right.
we're about 15%. So, which is 50% of our goal, you know, so, that is our estimate right now. We're embarking on an open space plan. And that will help us kind of refine our numbers and have, more confidence in the numbers. With where we currently are and then what we need to do, to get to 30 by 30 or close to it, as close as possible to it. And that's why, I mean, the land bond on there is an important piece of that process.
I've got a question for April. This seems like when we talk about conservation and sustainability, and then you look through the bullets, conservation in the context of all of this is just land. So we're not thinking of conservation in terms of
I would,
carbon footprint.
I would agree with you. I would say that this year's council goals are heavily into supporting committee work that's already ongoing, that we carried over last, whatever work was initiated last year. But that the framing of kind of the way that these are, I think, reflect is that conservation right now, is being talked about in kind of a narrow scope in terms of just that land piece.
Okay,
Where does where does the open space plan discussion come in with respect to that?
So those were continue the efforts to, continue to support efforts to increase open space conservation efforts in towns such as the 30 by 30 goal. The open space plan is basically going to be our roadmap to 30 by 30.
But which committees?
Oh, I'm sorry, which committee? So, it is a direct it came out of a request from the Conservation Commission, but the council formed an ad hoc open space committee, where a lot of the natural resource and land use committees were asked to serve on that.
Did they get anybody from long range planning?
Yep,
Be-
it is Portia Hirschman from
Okay.
Long Range Planning, I believe. No, it's Robin Saunders from Long.
Robin, okay,
Portia is representing the transportation.
Transportation.
okay.
But in terms of carbon reduction and things like that, that would be part of the climate action plan that they are
Right.
supporting. And our next item, once we move on from this, will be to talk about a proposed capital improvement plan for climate action and adaptation. So yeah, there's definitely energy conservation, energy efficiency worked in.
Yep, into their plan.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it would be just adaptation.
Right.
It would just be defense.
Yeah, and so the climate action and adaptation plan is really going to pull together the open space plan, the vulnerability assessment, and then kind of greenhouse gas emissions, carbon emissions, and reductions into the full climate action and adaptation plan.
Excellent. How long was your meeting?
5 hours, 5 and a half.
I was gonna say longer than planned.
Yeah, we went 9 to almost 2.
Wow.
It was supposed to end at noon. Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing that. I think these are some, pretty impactful goals. It's, the Gorham Connector is already a hot topic that's being discussed quite a bit now.
Yeah.
And it'll continue to be on top of mind, I'm sure. Anybody else have any questions, comments, or? Seeing none, I think we can move to new business.
So let me just rearrange Zoom here so you guys can see what I'm seeing. All right. As I mentioned, there is interest among members of the council to have a climate action and adaptation plan as part of our fiscal year 25 capital improvement plan. So we're working on pulling together the pieces needed for that. There's also some interest in having additional funding brought in to offset what is allocated from the council. So there are grant opportunities out there, including the community action grants, $50,000 that could go towards climate action planning. The other one that I wanted to float by everyone was what we were talking about last meeting with our the formula funding from the Department of Energy.
ECGD.
Yeah, that can go towards energy planning as well, which would be applicable to this effort. There was strong support for pursuing a municipal solar array, so happy to move forward with that. But if there are other thoughts to perhaps allocating that funding towards overall climate action plan, which would essentially be a souped up version of our existing energy plan. We can have a discussion about that.
I like that idea. It's been what? When was the last energy plan?
2017.
2017? Yeah, it's a little old.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the second rewrite of it.
Yeah,
So-
we know a lot more now than we did in 2017.
Yeah, we
Things have
do,
changed a
and
lot.
things have changed, and there's, the state has its plan.
Yep.
And, they're trying to lead by example, and that kind of trickles down to us.
Yep.
So I'd be in favor of moving forward with some sort of a third party. Do you think it has to get involved? Would we go to RFP or?
Yeah, I think just to
RFP?
do a lot of the analysis for us, for energy usage, because it's not just doing the analysis for town operations, but it would be town-wide in all sectors. So it would be helpful to.
It
have
would
a
include the
third-
schools too.
Yeah, it would include everything in Scarborough.
Yeah, so I think, is that the plan, is to go to RFQ and
Yeah,
go that way?
and then have someone who can bring together the pieces from the vulnerability assessment, the open space plan, and the kind of benchmarking, not benchmarking, but greenhouse gas analysis, our
Mhm.
emissions analysis, and pull together kind of strategies and priorities related to all of those items.
Now, the vulnerability study, is that the one, the Route 1 only, or does that include the
It's townwide.
Okay, it's all town, so we're still. And did that joint meeting with the Cape Elizabeth happen?
It did happen, yeah.
And how did that go?
It was really positive. No one spoke so what Rick's talking about is the meeting with the Cape Elizabeth Town or workshop with Cape Elizabeth Town Council and Scarborough Town Council. Talking about a grant that we received to remove a portion of Sawyer Street and Scarborough Sawyer Road in Cape Elizabeth that crosses the Spurwink Marsh right on the border of Scarborough and Cape Elizabeth. We received a $1.59 million grant to do a marsh restoration project there, which includes fully removing Sawyer Street from the marsh. And both councils seemed in favor of it. Members of the public who spoke were in favor of it. And we've gotten a lot of media attention for that project.
I did like a 20-minute interview with the guy and I got 2.5 seconds of being like, yeah, the road floods. And I was like, thanks, MTW, really captured what I was going for there.
Yeah, so Karen Shoup was on Channel 6, I was on Channel 13, you were on Channel 8.
Good coverage.
Yeah, I mean,
And then
right,
all of the
any
local
exposure, I'm grateful that the media picked it up because, you know, we have a workshop and a few people come and speak and obviously, you know, I wear a different hat because I need to think about the financial impacts of this, but also, you know, I don't want this to be something where all of a sudden we get all kinds of outcry from residents because they didn't know.
Right.
And so, but it's really hard to generate interest on something like a road closing until the road is going to
Closed.
be closed and then people are upset. So I was glad that the media picked it up, if for no other reason than to just put it out there that, oh, hey, the councils are considering this and, you know,
What's
we've
the,
gotten a few emails since those.
what's the cost, total cost and how much will the grant cover? Or,
So the total cost is right around $2 million. The grant covers 1.59. The remaining, and then each community is on the hook for 185,000.
oh, okay.
And that is essentially to construct the turnarounds at the once the road is dead-ended on.
Are they
either side
putting
of the marsh.
hammerheads?
Hammerheads, yeah.
Okay,
So originally, the proposal included funding for the construction of the turnarounds, but because it's a restoration grant, they said we really can't fund that portion of the project, but that is a pretty low amount.
180.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on a $2 million project is.
And we have 2 years to fund it. So we could split, if we wanted to, we could split it into a capital investment 2 years over.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to take the whole thing at once, but
Yeah.
the council finance
90 grand a
committee is,
year.
you know, well aware that that
Okay,
needs to be somewhere in that FY 25 budget.
and then road closure would not happen until late in 2026. Early 2027, because they're going to go through a lot of restoration work initially to get the upper reaches of the marsh ready for more tidal flow, because right now the road is acting as a dam or a restriction and not as much water is allowed to pass upstream into the marsh. So, and then the marsh has been modified from like historic farming and things like that. So addressing some of the issues that we're aware of upstream so that the marsh surface will be ready for more water is important. So that's why the first couple years will be working within the marsh. And then it will be removing the road in 2026. We've gotten some emails asking, can you maintain it as a walking path or a biking path? And really the funding is really contingent on the road being fully removed and the road bed being fully removed. And this will allow both Scarborough and Cape Elizabeth to focus resources on the many other roads that need to be addressed, as was demonstrated during the January storms. So.
anything from the committee?
Not for that. I do just want to clarify. So for our thought moving forward, I didn't think that this committee would have any issue on a climate action and adaptation plan. But do we want to pursue outside funding through like a community action grant for that? Or do we want to talk about allocating our energy efficiency and conservation block grant funding towards climate.
How much, what's the formula? What do we get?
75,000.
75. We wanted to do a solar. What, do you have an estimate on what that would look like in terms of?
I think that it would, I mean, either one, the climate action would cost more than 75,000. This would just offset the allocation from council. And the solar planning, 75 should cover it without.
What about the Go Pif?
So that's the community action grant that I was talking about.
All right, so we use that one for the study and then the
Yeah, we could-
EECGB for the
For
solar.
solar. Mhm.
I'm all right with that. That's my opinion. Any thoughts from the committee?
You really can offload a lot of the costs of developing a solar field onto private parties. If you had an RFQ or an RFP early on and that's what they do all the time.
Mhm.
So, you know, you covering environmental concerns, covering town liabilities, you know, covering, there may be some residual leveling or something that the town would have to do as owner of the property, and there would be some legal,
Mhm.
but really, most of the costs can be put off onto private parties if you do it right.
Yep.
I was
Yeah.
one of those suckers, for 13 years.
Yeah, I think though, part of this is going to be educating, like decision makers and things like that and bringing the information forward, so that this is a comfortable path forward for everyone. A lot of municipalities have done it. It's not a new thing. But there are, you know, there is still some education that we need to do, for town leadership around that.
Anything you need from us?
No, I guess just your blessing. At some point, we may want to send a memo or a letter in support of climate action plan to the town council. That's always helpful as they're going through the budget process to hear from town committees and residents about the initiatives that are being proposed that they need to fund.
Yeah, I think we ought to not keep them in the dark.
Yeah, that was a very helpful with the open space, getting funding for the open space plan last year, was having the Conservation Commission really involved and vocal, asking for that plan to be funded. Like I said, there is already some support with members of the council. I don't know if it's a full council support, but there are multiple councilors who would like to see climate action plan on there.
Right.
So I think that there's a good chance, but having,
Well, then we ought to put that together.
Yep.
So that,
I can,
no objections from the committee.
Should we, should that communication include a list of specific projects that we're supporting, or would that automatically be part of the letter? I'm thinking we don't want to say we support the climate action plan. What can we put in it?
well, I think it's more, the reasons for supporting the climate action plan, why it's important for Scarborough to have one.
Yeah.
And really, it's in my 5 years here, I've come to know that we don't do a lot in Scarborough without a plan. And so even though there's lots of resources and strategies out there that we could draw from to, you know, reduce our carbon emissions and become more energy efficient and have programs in place to help the community do the same. If we don't have it written in a plan, it's a harder sell. And so pulling all of those pieces together and having basically a priority list and strategies for how we should move forward with that will help the process move more smoothly. And we can certainly provide some examples of projects, but that would all be wrapped into the plan itself
Right.
as it's developed.
It was interesting. I just got a hold of Piper Shore's climate action plan. Or, I mean, it just
Sustainability
hit the
plan.
street and Mark Gregory.
Gregoire, yeah.
Yeah, he sent it to me and we're gonna have a beer over it and talk about it, but it was a really, really good plan.
It is, I think.
And something like that at a municipal level would certainly benefit.
Yeah,
It also leans heavily, if I may, I've been a member of the Scarborough Sustainability Collaborative for a few years, as has Jamie, but she hasn't been coming
you
to
know, I
meetings.
think so.
And
That's the Piper Shores Collaborative.
it leans, I would say, quite heavily on state policy, and so aligns the goal of 80% renewable energy by 2030 and
Yep.
and so forth, right down the line, and then a lot of different actions. We're going to be saving money. Furthermore, I have helped us get into 3 different agreements for the net energy billing program. So we're going to be offsetting close to 75% of the electrical bills of all of Piper Shores with those savings from the net energy billing program by taking on pieces that other places have given up.
Hmm.
This has been arranged with the help of Competitive Energy Services.
It was really I just saw it not too long and didn't read every page, but I like the structure of it too. It just seems like it makes a lot of sense.
And we're careful to pick out the high priority things, sort of the low hanging fruit. Advancing with electric vehicles. Already the administration has purchased a couple of hybrids for its own, use within the campus, and doing a lot more for energy. Some of it's quite simple, just shifting the way of generating heating and cooling and dialing back on some of the dials.
Mhm.
And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I will share, I was having a conversation with one of our town councilors recently, and I just totally, I should have said they.
There are 3 of us.
Yeah, that's true. It's more balanced now than it has been in the past. But the person said, I just hear sustainability and I hear money and expensive. And I think we need to work on changing that perspective, because while there is a little bit more of an upfront cost, the long-term savings more than outweigh.
It's cost effective.
Hyper Shores is going to be saving $60,000 in the first year, and that savings is going to be significantly going up. Sustainability equals savings.
Yeah. So, and maybe that's something that we want to highlight, the efforts of Piper Shores in a town newsletter or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good idea, because it's a local organization, and I mean, they have a big impact. They got a big footprint down there. And
It's the biggest taxpayer in Scarborough. It's payment in lieu of taxes, and yes,
in Hannaford?
I'm told that it is the biggest
Right.
property taxpayer, and certainly not sales taxpayer. But almost 400 residents and over 230 employees. It's big.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're doing something in the workshop. Do you hang out in the workshop?
Not yet.
Well, they're doing something
Yes.
immediate on that.
Expanding that a little bit to make it even more efficient. Yeah.
Do you mind if I share that plan with, I can?
Oh, I think it'd be absolutely fine. One of the things that some of the residents of Piper Shores have done is joined in effect, a collaborative of retirement communities around New England, and are in that helping one another move forward on sustainability goals. It's part of the marketing plan now, and obviously property management through Mark Gregoire in operations.
Yep.
So absolutely share.
I'll send it to you. All right, what's next?
Want to get everyone's thoughts on hosting a coastal meetup event. So this is something that Emerson is going to be working on for us. So the Gulf of Maine Research Institute is doing kind of citizen science projects where they get people together during some of the predicted very high tides to kind of talk a little bit about how our tides are changing, the impacts of high tides. And then everyone goes to a location and they document what it looks like. And so it's a way to kind of see how things are changing over time. So I've gone through the tide charts for 2024, and we have at least I was conservative in my memo that I wrote to the council, but there's like 80 days in 2024 where tides are predicted to be at least 10.5 feet or above. I think I said 60, over 60 in the memo. So that's pretty significant. We don't normally have that many dates when our tides are going to be that high. And then if we have the situation where those high tides coincide with storms like we did in January, obviously we all know the effects of that. So this is just a way to be getting people thinking about our changing tides, changing sea level, and doing, like I said, some citizen science where people can go take pictures and document what they're observing. And Emerson, you spoke with, do you want to give a little bit more or fill in any blanks that I may have missed, or did I cover it?
Yeah, I mean, so GMR will post them, they sort of do like a mapping exercise on their website, on their citizen science page. So it's not like they're doing some big study, but it's kind of cool because you can go into, the southern Maine part and look on Scarborough and see all the different locations that they're collecting this data. And read through kind of what everyone is seeing and see pictures that people have posted and just people's comments. But yeah, I think it's just there's another fellow working at GMRI, so I spoke to her, and it's just a good way to get people outside and kind of looking at these things and not only doing sort of science related observation, but also just thinking about how that makes you feel and how, that impacts the place you live and your town and other people. Seems like a cool event to get put together.
So looking at the tide charts, there are high tides in March and April. Unfortunately, the April high tides, very high tides, are at like 2 a.m. And so we're not going to do a midnight excursion to go check out impacts of high tides. So we're probably looking at August or September for the next high tides that are at a convenient time of day for people who might be able to make it out and participate. But
So the ask is to host a meeting?
yeah, so we would essentially coordinate a meetup event and hopefully get the word out to Scarborough residents so that they will come and participate and be engaged with this process. And then it's something that people can also do on their own. This, I think, is to kind of initiate involvement, and then people can kind of track tides and go out on their own as they're able to, and again, to these similar locations. And it's even helpful, I think, looking at a number of different high tides. So not just like our astronomical high tides, but just high tides in general, just to see how it's different. Because with 80, of these very high tides, over 10.5 feet, our astronomical high tides are going to become our normal high tides. And so that's what we should be thinking about and planning for going forward.
Well, it's nice that we're part of the collaborative, if you will. I'd be fine with hosting a meeting. Committee. I mean, I'm just looking, this is the first time I've seen this website. It's pretty cool, very interactive. And just looking at Scarborough, there's lots of hits that we could,
What's the website? I think it's just GMRI, community science.
There's a link on the agenda.
I shared the link in the agenda, and I can send it out again as part of meeting follow-up. But yeah, it's essentially a story map format where there are interactive maps and photos, and they're still working on building it out. So you'll notice that a lot of the Scarborough sites that they've identified, so they have like Higgins Beach, Route 1, Pine Point, Black Point Road, Scarborough Beach State Park. They don't necessarily have photos yet. So this will be a good way for us to help them kind of populate some of that information.
I'll hang out at the Payne Road there, at that intersection. It's not too far.
And then also, if people attend this event, they'll learn how to use because it's pretty much like you can scan a QR code and go online and just do it yourself whenever you want to, if you feel moved. But I think that there's somewhat of a barrier to figuring out how to do that. So if people, attend and learn how to do that and see just the process is pretty easy and do it whenever, then you know, if we don't plan the meetup on, you know, when a storm hits and then when it hits, then people can go out and do it themselves.
Yeah. And I will say we've gotten, I mean, we have quite a few good photos from the storms in
From the January
January.
storm. Yeah.
Those can be recorded too, if there's the exact date, like
Yeah.
people who took photos during that.
Yeah, I was thinking that I might try to go in and upload some, because we definitely have amazing photos from Sawyer Street, which may be considered Casco Bay, even though that is still Saco Bay, so maybe not, maybe that, I think, but it's under Cape Elizabeth and not Scarborough.
Hmm. If
And-
you have them, I can send them to Morgan too.
Okay.
You can upload them.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Have a tent or a booth at.
At Sustainable Scarborough Day.
Could you man that?
Sure. If you're still, you're gonna be just ending your time for, so we'll have.
I'll volunteer. I'll still be
You'll
there.
volunteer. I'm like,
We have that on video.
Can I
That's how
put
they
a-
get you.
Yeah, put another source of data onto the record for today, bigger picture. The climatereanalyzer.org site, which is in affiliation with the Climate Change Institute at the University of Maine, publishes daily records of air temperatures and water temperatures. And to me, I showed you the curve of the water temperatures in 2023, highest ever off the charts. That continues into 2024, and this little piece over here, and to me, it's stunning.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest causes of sea level rise is the warming and expansion of water simply by warming.
Yeah.
And this is really unprecedented. People haven't totally taken this in yet.
Right.
And so climatereanalyzer.org, in affiliation with the University of, .org, in affiliation with the University of Maine, publishes those records on a daily basis.
Yeah, I mean, it's very true. The warmer water, I mean, water expands, it gets to the point of
You may.
212 with steam. So, yeah.
That's this one.
Yeah, definitely, a
Any-
lot of awareness to be raised.
Yeah, feedback from the committee on hosting a meeting. Do you need a formal vote, or can we just?
No, just wanted to make sure that it was of interest to this group, and probably the Conservation Commission, as well. And, Emerson and I will work on the format for that and getting GMRI on board. Like I said, it looks like August is gonna be our target, because that's when our tides are midday again and not our highest tides are midday and not in the middle of the night.
If you have a spot anywhere down Black Point Road, I'd be happy to be a witness.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my questions was, it seems like everyone goes to the same spot, and maybe that's just to get people trained and oriented. But again, there are lots of spots of interest that GMRI have identified in Scarborough. But there's probably others as well that people may know about that it would be great to kind of start documenting conditions in Scarborough.
And I think people will. I think that the training piece, I mean, my kids, I don't know how many people go to Fuller regularly, but my kids love to take that photo from the bridge. Like
Mhm.
every single time we go, we have to take the photo, we have to upload it, and then they check and make sure that I actually did it. And like, so they love that aspect of it. And so just having an easy way for people to engage once they've learned the process for how to do it, I think could easily catch on with a lot of people who maybe live near sites that aren't well documented all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, that's great.
We need somebody in Scarborough to take over and measure snowfall. The
Well, that's really
newspaper and the
easy.
radio has never had Scarborough. How much did Scarborough
Oh, we
get?
need a weather observer. That's what
Yeah.
you're saying?
But then there's always this other side of the turnpike is completely
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
rather than
Yes.
on the, the coast side,
Yeah.
and
The influence of the ocean is pretty,
pretty impactful.
Yes.
so we should add that
Okay.
on our to-do list, is to recruit a couple weather spotters.
Measured in millimeters, not feet.
Yeah, seriously. Inches. Some pretty-
All right, well, I think we'll thank you for bringing this up, and we look forward to supporting you.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun event. Town council update?
Oh, gosh, we've covered a lot of ground that council's already working on. Jamie already said ordinance committee's gonna be taking up the CPACE ordinance in March. We are, just in general council news, Nick and I are super busy with the newly reconstituted school building project.
And the 80-person committee.
And the 80-person.
Yeah, it got big, didn't it?
Sure did.
Oh,
It
yeah.
sure did. That committee meets Monday nights at 6 o'clock at the Public Safety Building for anybody who might be interested in following along with that process. Other council business, obviously, we're getting ready to launch the FY25 budget. And so all of our committee work is kind of framed around the budget right now. And the reval, I'm the chair of the communications committee, and so our March meeting is going to be focused on budget communications and reval communications, just trying to get out ahead of what people's conceptions are
Yeah.
going to be moving into what could potentially be a rough budget this year, so. I think that's, unless you guys have questions.
No, I'm just glad to see it get in the ordinance agenda for the CPACE.
Yeah.
And John was right, followed right up on my
For
email for the finance. So
Perfect.
things are, we're positioned well, unless the committee has other thoughts.
I'm curious, just as an aside, what is the current thinking about the school? What does it look like people are thinking?
No
Where-
poker face.
where we're going, you know?
So.
You can smile. it's
So,
okay.
so phase one of the newly reconstituted building committee is basically saying, is asking this 70-person committee to go back and say, what are the current problems that exist in our school district? Develop a problem statement and then make a recommendation to the council and the school board early May as to what phase two of the project should look like. But phase one of the project is not talking solutions yet, not even close.
Building the
Starting
case for
completely.
a solution.
Exactly,
So basically you're looking for problem definitions now?
yes. Doing building tours, speaking with the facilities director. Talking with curriculum directors, all the building principals.
How? And you're responsible for this committee?
So
This
this
one of
is
your
a
roles.
joint council, school board ad hoc committee, and the chair, Nick McGee, and I are the voting members on this ad hoc committee from the council.
Okay, and all of the 70 members get a vote as
Yes.
well? How? Just as from an organization viewpoint, how do you keep all of the herd of people?
We
heading
elected
in
a
the same
leadership team.
Direction.
Yep, so we elected a leadership team, which has Nick and I and 2 members of the school board, as well as 5 members of the community.
Of the committee of 70.
Of the committee of 70 to kind of be the steering committee for the larger committee. So far, we have had 2 really productive meetings. People want to talk, right? Everybody kind of wants to get off their chest what their view of the current situation is. And so it's taking a little bit of time to work through those initial meetings. But, we'll get there, and we knew that this was the process that the community called for after the failed referendum. And so we said, okay, this is how we will engage the community then.
We love it.
Thank you.
Be careful what you ask for, huh?
That's
Are there minutes of this meeting? Are they published?
plentiful.
I can imagine. It's voluminous.
Yes, voluminous.
Voluminous is
Minutes.
with 70 people.
Yes,
What poor person has to write those minutes? I feel so bad.
right now it's a shared responsibility. Nick and I took on the last meeting to create the minutes. But I think we're gonna try and pass that responsibility around because it's a big one. And it's hard to participate when you're trying to capture all of that for 2.5 hours.
Are they zoomed?
They are.
Yeah, so you always got.
Yep, there's always recordings, and then all of the subcommittee work is also recorded and minutes are taken, and the idea is to have all that stuff published. You guys know, the double-edged sword of this is we'll put all this foundational work in, and we'll make sure that the meetings are recorded and that the minutes are captured and posted. And inevitably, 6 months from now, someone will say to us, I can't possibly look at all this. There's too much stuff here to look at.
Well, I never
Um,
heard
and
about
so-
this.
Never.
Yeah, I did not know this was happening.
So,
This is the first I'm hearing about it.
okay, so we have
How
some
are you trying to
communication efforts to do.
publicize these meetings?
They are in the Scarborough Leader, yeah, under things to do. And then they're also.
Under Miss Maple's dancing class?
Yeah,
Maybe we
probably
should get-
whatever else is.
Get, who's that girl, Samantha?
Overeaters Anonymous is, I think, on the list of
Channel
things to
6.
do.
Things to do in Maine.
Oh, yeah.
She always has it.
What kind of- Barbara?
Samantha, you.
Building the committee. But it's social media, it's on both town calendars, and then we're trying to get it in the Leader, just as a standing meeting as well.
Well, good luck.
And it's in the news.
I was gonna say the e-newsletter.
Yeah, e-newsletter.
Do you have thoughts on?
Yeah,
other ways
I
to
mean,
get
honestly,
No,
hit me with
I'm
them.
just- I'm just fascinated with the dynamic
You've never
of us.
heard
It hurts my heart a little bit.
No, I've heard of it, but
400 hours in my
I'm
life.
just fascinated with the organizational dynamics of a 70-person committee. Because it's more like a mob.
Sometimes it feels that way.
Yeah.
We did some great group breakout work. We had everybody count off and form some breakout groups the other night, and that worked well. And
Who gets to facilitate these meetings?
me and Nick and
You have
Jillian and
police
Leanne.
presence?
Carolina.
Well, it's not public
It'll-
safety,
it'll-
so-
it'll-
We have our community resource officer is on the committee, which I think is fantastic.
It's always nice to have.
It's good to have
An
someone with a
escort,
We have the
badge.
Scarborough Police there as well for representation.
In the public
It's in the
safety
public safety
building.
building.
Yeah, they're readily accessible.
Can I ask, as a communications specialist, what do you think of the idea of having somebody who's a professional mediator write an article on how to prevent conflicts by doing a public engagement program like this one?
We would, the communications subcommittee, I'm sure, would welcome any experts who wanted to come and give guidance for how to navigate this.
But to find a mediator who's a good writer.
I think Pamela Plum is retired. She was always a good mediator. She did the town when the mayor, the resolution for the mayor in Portland, they had this huge committee and she was the moderator for that, I believe.
And we have a couple of moderators in Scarborough who have volunteered their time, in the past. When we did Counselor Corner Live on the school project a couple, January. And they came and helped moderate. And so we do have people in the professionals who have volunteered their time in the past, but not from that communications standpoint. So that's a good perspective to take on it, I think.
When do you hope to have some sort of a conclusion?
The phase one,
2035?
I mean, I was hoping to have some kind of conclusion in November of 2023. But the first phase of the committee is set to report to the council and the school board in early May. And then we'll go from there. I think acknowledgement that the referendum failed by such a large margin has kind of set people back to, okay, not only do we need to come up with the solution that's best for the students and the teachers, but we also need to find something that the community is going to support too.
So it's likely not gonna be on a 2024 referendum.
I don't want to speak out of place, but it's,
Well, Kate Elizabeth did the same thing and
the reval is not going to help.
no, it's not.
I mean, it's needed, but
Well, the last reval wasn't so bad.
It depends on.
It depends on where you are. Yeah.
I agree with you, and I am a big proponent of explaining to residents why the reval is a good thing. Because many residents benefit from the reval.
Well, my former neighbor used to be the tax assessor. So he very patiently explained to me that even though your appraised value goes up, the mill rate
Mill rate
should go
comes down.
down and things should stay roughly the same.
It's not like the town budget is going to
Right, it's net neutral.
explode because their property values go up, like the budget is the budget.
Right, and that's
so
all the budget can do
it's
is
the
ask
divider.
to cover the cost of operation, not anything more.
Right.
It makes it fair, everybody pays their fair share, what it ends up being.
It's not the way it should be. You should be paying more than me. That's the way it works.
Okay, let's move on.
Planning board?
Planning board, let's see, we had a long meeting last week, but nothing real, another bank. Their credit union with another shell space came forth with a sketch plan. Nothing real impactful,
We need another credit union.
Where's that? Oh, it's okay if you don't know.
no,
It's all right, but we need more
It's at
credit.
the, Rick, it's at the corner of Payne and Gorham Road. It's where the, it's actually reusing in that old building, that big blue metal roof building.
Blue metal roof building.
You'll never not see it now, but it's right there at the light. What did it used to be?
Daycare,
I think it was,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's been vacant for quite some time.
right before you get to the Cumberland Farms.
We need more credit unions.
The Portland Rugby Club,
Oh,
got
yeah.
approval for, two fields. One's more of a practice field and smaller, and then they have a competition field. It's located off of Two Rod Road, beyond the Speedway. Really, that's all low impact
Mhm.
on the land that's there. And it was one of the few projects that we actually had public comment in favor of something. And
Must have
so
been
it was
nice.
kind of nice to hear folks coming to us saying, we support this project. That's always been a little tough area because there's a lot of impact. I mean, was an issue, and they done a lot of homework, and they brought forth a really good proposal, and it got passed this last week. Autumn, anything else that was real impactful? I'm looking at-
You all heard the hotel motel conversion ordinance, so that's going back to council. That came from the Housing Alliance a little over a year ago. So that's coming back to council next week. We'll see. how
Yeah,
that goes.
and
That's an attempt to provide an option for some affordable housing.
Yeah.
And
What about Beach Ridge Speedway? What?
well, as far as we know,
Where
there's
is
been
that?
only one, there's been a sketch plan, and did they come for a first site plan? It was warehouses. Or
no, so the Beach
trucking.
Ridge Speedway, the FedEx proposal is moving forward. They are still working through that. I suspect it will be back in front of the board in the next few months.
So it's just a commercial operation.
Wasn't there a lot of conversation about water resources or something with that project?
Yeah, well, then the abutters have shallow wells and the water isn't plentiful. And the cost to bring in public water across the turnpike is just
Prohibitive.
cost prohibitive. And so they're looking at the other solutions. This is a low water usage, the plan that's been brought forward. I don't know, we've asked them to do an analysis on water and needs, and I'm sure we'll hear from the abutters again on this. But it is what it is. They haven't come back to us yet.
Doesn't DEP get involved with water issues like this?
They should.
That's not. I mean, I don't have a dog in this fight, but I'm just thinking about the residents, if they're worried about their wells and whatnot. I mean, I'm not sure I'd want to just have the petitioner doing the study. It would be nice to have somebody in a neutral corner come out and say something.
Oh, and the other, go ahead, Autumn.
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say the applicant for the project has reached out to the neighbors, and I have heard from the neighbors that they're not agreeing to let them do that, but at this time, the town is not planning to do any sort of initiative to do those studies on the town's accord. It would be a third party, so it would make sense, I think, for the neighbors to participate. But we'll see where it goes.
There was one other one that I wanted just to bring up, at Dunstan Crossing. There was a new building being proposed, right off of Stewart Drive and Route 1. This is where Dunstan Tap and Table is. And if you, as you first enter in, the developer proposed a multi-use building. Professional office could be, but also a smoothie, I think it was, a smoothie operation where you can go in and get a smoothie and whatever. But we had some reservations on the positioning of the building front and all that, so it'll be back in front of the board again, probably next meeting. That's really the meat of last month.
I can give an update on the Conservation Commission. They have kind of wrapped up their proposed environmental standards. So this is proposing additional setbacks and buffers around natural resources. So with varying requirements for if you're adjacent to coastal marshes, they're calling it the marsh migration zone to give room for our coastal marshes to move inland. Freshwater wetlands and streams. So that is scheduled to go to the ordinance committee for their initial review in March. And then I believe that SEDCO has requested a presentation on the proposed standards for their board also, just so that they can see what may be coming down the pike. Staff have been doing some analysis of how that may impact various parcels. And so we've been working with our GIS person to develop an application where we can kind of look at what the proposed buffers and setbacks are, and how it will affect parcels. But in terms of our coastal areas, these will be some of the most stringent in the state, so that we can protect Scarborough Marsh and Spurwink Marsh. And so that those systems will have room to expand inland as sea level continues to rise. So we'll continue to have a marsh and not a mudflat.
Oh.
And our benefit in the benefit of the marsh was so visible during the January storms because our roads flooded, but they weren't destroyed because the marsh absorbed a lot of the energy coming at it from the ocean. So super important systems to have to protect our areas.
Well, that's exactly why New Orleans floods all the time, because they developed all of those lowlands.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's below sea level.
that too.
Well, that too, but it is pretty flat by the ocean.
And we currently don't have any setback and buffering requirements around freshwater wetlands.
It's a good thing.
It's
Yeah.
not a requirement in any of the state statutes or anything like that. Our streams and lakes are protected, wetlands are not really, and obviously our wetlands are very important for inland flooding also. And for, dealing with pollutants and stuff like that. So, hopefully the standards will move forward, because they are really important to protecting Scarborough's natural resources.
How long would that take to become effective, to go through the whole process?
I'm not sure because like I said, they're rigorous, what is being proposed. So I think that there's going to be a lot of public comment and there will probably be some revisions to what's being proposed. It's going to be a pretty long process, I suspect. Because there's going to be a lot of impacts.
Did you want to bring up anything about the Sustainability Day, or was that enough of a conversation we had earlier?
Let's put that on the agenda for
Next
next meeting. I have, like I said, I have started to reach out to food trucks, entertainment, things like that to get things moving. I am thinking that this year's planning will be a little bit easier because we already have a lot of the materials developed. We've got great feedback from people who came, so that we can get hopefully more vendors and more participation, because it was a really well-attended event with good feedback. So yeah, we'll start thinking about Sustainable Scarborough Day in March.
It has to be scheduled on a beautiful day.
I know, I'm
So
putting my order in for a
lucky.
nice sunny day again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Transportation Committee, they met last night, so I don't have a lot of an update other than they are working on a traffic calming policy. I believe that's going to the town council at the next meeting. Transportation Committee was looking at it last night, for the final time, and basically it's a process for residents to request that the town do some analysis of their neighborhood or their area if they feel like speeds are too high. And so it's a process that it can't just be one person requesting it. They need to get at least 10 people from their neighborhood to sign on requesting the town do some study and analysis in their area. Just to help kind of formalize the process and give some guidelines for engineering, public safety, public works to follow as they're considering these requests.
It's called traffic calming.
Traffic calming, yes,
Okay,
so
I did
ways,
hear it correctly.
yes, getting
To replace soothing music.
Yeah. yeah.
Rotaries everywhere, rotaries
Reduce road
everywhere.
rage. It's to reduce road rage. It's to get people to slow down in areas.
Islands. And mid.
Yeah, medians and
medians, like
Speed
the-
bumps.
that is the request in a lot of areas. So actually, public safety and engineering are purchasing temporary speed bumps that can be installed as kind of a test measure in certain areas for roads that are requesting it.
If I've mentioned this once, I must have mentioned it 30,000 times. What about photo enforced traffic?
It's not allowed.
It's not allowed in the
Why,
city.
why is this not?
Every time you bring it up, we give you the
I
same.
can see him running for the state legislature next
What
session.
is this not allowed in Maine? Nonsense.
State legislature.
And ask them to.
All right, I will send it. It's a great way for Scarborough to make money. It really is. Now, I swear to God, every other place has got it, you know?
Yeah, Alabama.
Yeah, I mean,
Rhode Island,
even
California.
even in horrible places, they have it, you know, you go through a stop sign, $75 fine.
Gotcha.
Bang, that's it. There's no fuss, there's no muss, there's no disgust. You just-
Ticket people.
Just-
Better way to train people.
I can't
It's
believe-
effective.
Yeah.
It is effective.
Yeah, and I can't believe. we don't-
Random reinforcement is the worst.
I
way to
can't even-
train people.
Gotta get the.
The technology is there on the TransPass. I mean, now you can go through these cities that don't.
It's been there for 50, when I was in the Peace Corps in Korea, they had one major turnpike from Seoul to Busan. They put out a camera there that was only to take pictures of US Army trucks speeding. They've had this technology for
Yeah.
decades.
It is a state law that it cannot happen, so it's not a local choice.
Right, laws can be changed.
Yes,
And until they fix the gun laws.
but this needs to
they
be
shoot 'em
changed.
off. Yeah.
It's much more effective than putting out little blinking stop signs.
Do we
Go
have,
for your legislators.
I
I'll
will.
go with you.
do we have a position on the Gorham bypass?
Good question.
Do we, this committee or this council or,
I
We know
believe
there's
that, I
public
believe the
interest.
town is in support, that
I think
the town as a body.
the town as a body passed a proclamation in support of advancing the project. Maybe even more than
concept, yeah.
once conceptually. And so if you interpret that as support of the project, then the town has taken that position.
That is a very careful statement you just made.
I'm just being-
I'm
Well, and I
wanting
wanna
to
say,
get
like,
under-
It's difficult.
It is.
Because I feel like we just had a workshop on it last Wednesday, 2 Wednesdays ago, and I feel like, again, it's an opportunity for residents to come in, and I'm always in favor of giving residents time at the podium. But I also feel like it's messy because it's bringing something into my house that is not in my control. And it gives this perception that the town council has some kind of authority or control over this project, and we really do not.
Have they secured all of the easements and everything?
No.
This
No.
is usually what holds these things
Yeah.
up.
Well,
for decades.
that's
Still
what's
in that
holding this up.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the workshop, they said they have 35% of the linear distance. that they
Distance
need.
that they need, 30%. That's a
35%.
lot of other
Yeah.
property
And
owners that have
There's,
to deal
and
with.
there's been a lot of news coverage about Smiling Hill Farm because it is likely to impact Smiling
It's a
Hill Farm.
shame. It's a shame to cut off these places. It is.
The whole concept of building roads rather than putting buses on the road is so short-sighted. My son lives in Gorham, and every time we go there, I count the cars that only have one person in them. It's just silly. And it's a bigger than town problem, but
And I think they've acknowledged that, or from what MTA has said, buses can't be the only solution. This connector can't be the only solution. They need both and more to address the traffic and connectivity challenges. Because we've got more people living here and our roads haven't been designed for that many people living here.
And usually what happens after the roads are expanded, and I saw this in Philadelphia because there was this thing called the Blue Route. Any of you are familiar with that area? That it increased congestion. It doesn't get rid of congestion. It just
It brings more people to the.
brings more people. They go, oh yeah, oh, I can get out.
Well, now that I can get there, I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I can get out to
Selling
Villanova
point for new
easier
neighborhoods,
now,
new
you know,
development.
so it just creates more traffic and more crowding. And then these are all recursive.
Yeah.
All right, well, we've made it through our agenda. Does anybody want to propose an agenda item for next month? We're gonna talk about Sustainability Day.
Yep.
I think we should get Emerson here to lead a conversation about a topic of interest to her.
I love that idea.
You got an extra day. before our meeting.
Are you still in school or are you finished?
So she's splitting her time between us and Greater Portland Council of Governments. So she's 20 hours a week with us, 20 hours a week with them, through September.
And then what are you gonna do in September?
Well,
That is such a good.
She's going to volunteer at Sustainable Scarborough Day. So she's hoping to make connections, I think, through the work that she's doing, and it happens with a lot of AmeriCorps volunteers. If they make good connections as they're doing their term of service, and or often go to work either for the organization that they worked for or a related organization that they were involved with through
Are
their.
you from Maine originally or some other,
I'm not, I'm from California,
where?
San Francisco.
Cool.
So judging all the time.
You're gonna get off a video here.
San Francisco's a big place. I was just wondering where in San Francisco.
In the city, out by the beach.
Okay. I had a sister who lived in San Rafael.
Oh, cool. Pretty close.
I spent
Do you like
24 years in
Really?
Corte Madera, just south of San. Can I ask, the state's climate council has a intention to review and revise the state's climate action plan, meanwhile, by December 1st, and there are a number of different events happening. Is the town, or is the town engaged in that in any way?
I have not, I'm following the process, but
Yeah.
that's to the extent that I'm involved in that.
They've already announced several meetings of the individual sectors. There's an energy council that I'm gonna be at least listening into, and then overall group is meeting in the next, I think it's late March, I can't remember precisely. There's a lot of good ideas there. A lot of collaboration, town to town and city to city.
Yeah, they have to do their updated report by December, right?
Right,
Every
December
4
1st.
years.
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, there are a lot of opportunities to engage with the council. All right, I think we've covered all the agenda items and we'll see, what's the next meeting? March
March 27th.
27th.
We'll see you all then.
Well, one other thing, this is National Invasive Species Week.
This week is?
Yeah.
Oh,
I can't keep my week straight.
Wasn't last week, talked to a pirate.
To get an extra.
Yeah, it sounds like a Russian celebration or something.
interesting that they're doing it in the winter time when so many invasives are plants
Are
and
normal.
not obvious to you.
Yeah, wait till the spring
They
comes
are,
and you
you're
start.
into them.
Well,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
But to raise awareness of them, you would think that they would do it at a time when they're.
Well, and I think planning department is working on even the landscaping ordinance so that there's better defined pathways for developers
Yeah,
when they're doing their landscaping.
We
plans.
just reviewed all the plant lists.
So that'll probably come to
ordinance.
planning board then pretty soon if you
Yeah.
guys saw it.
Yep.
Okay.
council,
Many-
planning board council.
White the list.
Oh, yeah, but
It won't
it's,
come until May because Autumn's on vacation in April.
oh,
Well, there she goes.
Sorry.
No, thank you.
But the updated plant list is typically shared with developers as
Yeah.
they're doing their plans
Yeah.
and things.
and
like
there
that,
hasn't
so-
been one developer that's pushed back on, okay, I'll change it. Once they are educated to, you know. use
That's what
that.
you all hear.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for being cheap.
That's right, that's right.
Many states and towns are doing, they call them buyback plans, you know, about that, where if you have one of these invasive plants, because you can't sell them anymore, but they're still on people's property, so. The buyback plan is, if you prove you have this tree or shrub or what that's on your property, and you take a picture of it and you cut it down, you take a picture of the heap of cut down, then they will give you another plant, a native, which is a small one, but nonetheless, to plant. And it's becoming more and more popular.
Watch gardening, we've got
Yeah.
Sunday morning, yeah, that's when he does it. All right, motion to adjourn?